Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and a good holiday break. With that being said, we are back down in the shop working on the second gen project. Here's where she sits right now. As you can see, we don't have a manifold installed, we don't have a turbo installed, no downpipe, no intercooler piping, you know, all your basic exhaust side components. We don't have any of that, but we do have them sitting here on the table. So I'm gonna do a quick overview of all the parts that we have here. Basically what I went with, the choice size turbo and everything like that, and also the powder coat color, and go from there. All right, so starting off, this is a Steed Speed T3 24 valve angled manifold. Pick it up. We are gonna be running it in the flipped up position like this. So this kit right here, everything that you see on the table all came from One Bad VP44. It is a high mount kit. It is the first one that he sold as a unit itself. Most everyone that goes with the high mount utilizes it for compounds, but for now we're just going to stick to a single charger. Speaking of the turbocharger, we did go with a GT Greg Turner Performance S300 frame 636814. This turbo's sweet spot is right around 550-600 horsepower, but also a good unit to use as the manifold charger on a compound setup. So we're going to start off with this turbo. It is wastegated, really nice unit. And then you can see as well that we have everything powder coated. This is a dragon's blood color. It's the closest thing that we can get to matching our Delmonico red color for the block and the head. So yeah, it might be a tad bit off, but once we get it installed, we can take a look. I don't think it's going to be very noticeable, especially when it's sitting in an engine bay, but it looks really, really good. And then also in the kit, we got a downpipe, you know, HX40 downpipe right here, intercooler piping right here. We got our oil feed, oil drain, all of our clamps, you know, boot clamps right here, V-band, everything else. And then also, I ordered this from Stainless Diesel. This is going to be our manifold gaskets right here, manifold stud kit. And then this is the stud kit for our turbo flange to our manifold flange. This is the stud kit for that. So yeah, right here we have our spacer for our turbo, because in the flipped up position, the compressor housing does get pretty close to hitting our manifold. We'll see exactly how it lines up and go from there. And then we have our little elbow that's going to our compressor housing right here that our intercooler piping is going to mount up to. And then we have our boots for the rest of the kit. So pretty well rounded kit right now that we have out here. Everything's powder coated. And the last thing, we do have our air filter. So to start out, we're going to go ahead and mount our manifold. And so first thing we got to do is we got to go ahead and start threading this into the head of the engine. Pretty simple process. Just go ahead. We're going to remove the tape. Start threading these in, and then we will go over how we're going to set the manifold on, and then get the turbo mounted up after that. Alrighty, so there we have it. We got all 6 exhaust ports cleaned up all the way down to the bare metal. So we're gonna go ahead and brush them up with a Scotch-Brite pad, and then we should be good to go. We'll start threading in our manifold studs and then get them torqued down, and then we'll hang the manifold off of it. And so we're just gonna start installing these one at a time. Basically, the idea behind these manifold studs is, let me open one real quick, is you're going to want to apply some anti-seize on each stud, and then we just go ahead and thread them into our bolt hole, and then you just run them down with a hex key all the way down until they bottom out. And then once we get all these installed, you can hang the manifold off of it, and then you torque down the nut, and the nut goes to 44 foot-pounds. All right, so once we get that knocked out, then all we do is just go in here and start installing our manifold gaskets. So pretty clean install. These went in very easy. These are gonna last basically the lifetime of the truck now. It's way better than a bolt system. Stud is real easy. You can just hang the manifold on there, especially if you're trying to install the manifold and turbo together. Because we have room and there's not a truck to work around, we're just gonna do it separately. But basically all I did, I just pushed that on there. You have to work it a little bit back and forth. There are some little ear tabs that kind of catch the threads down in there, if you can see, if it focuses. But yeah, so we just gotta do 5 more of those, and then we can get the manifold installed and start torquing down the nuts. Okay, so manifold gaskets are all on, studs are all threaded in, and then for the best manifold on the market, Steed Speed, we're gonna go ahead and get that one installed. This one is going flipped up, so that should be easy install. It's a little dusty, but we'll go ahead and get this knocked out, give you a look after we get it installed. Well, as you might have guessed, got a little bit too far ahead of myself and forgot that when you have the Steed Speed manifold in the flipped up position, your either EGT port or your dry pressure port, or both of them, they'll be on the bottom side, and that's just not easy to get to and run anything for those. So I'm gonna go ahead and just thread those in, tighten them up, and then we're gonna go ahead and drill this manifold out for either EGT or dry pressure. I'm gonna do both. Try to have it to where I can read out both whenever the truck's finally going and up and running. And hopefully I have it here in the shop so I can tap and thread it. It's whatever this size is. So we'll go ahead and find the thread for that one and the right diameter drill bit, and then go from there. I don't want to do it while it's on the truck because then you don't have any way to get the shavings out. Okay, so finally reading instructions on what EGT probe kit I want to go with. We are just gonna drill 1/4 inch NPT, so national pipe thread. We're just gonna do the same exact location but flip it over, and then for 1/4 inch NPT it calls for a 21/64 drill bit. That's what we have in the drill right here, and we got it from our drill bit case. So we're just gonna go ahead and probably put one around right there and one somewhere right in there. Once I get these drilled, then I will have to go and buy a tap. Okay, so here are the new holes drilled. One right there, one right there. Pretty much match what came with the manifold. So we'll go ahead and thread the plugs back into the holes that were drilled with it. And then these aren't tapped yet, so we'll just leave those open, and I'll find something to stick in there once we get everything mounted back up on the engine. All right, hey guys, it's the next day. We actually had to run and go get a tap for 1/8 inch MBT for our 2 new ports that we drilled on the manifold. Go ahead and tap those. Sorry for the background noise. Dad's out there with the tractor spreading rock, landscape rake. So we're gonna get these tapped real quick, set you up on a tripod, and then we'll get everything thrown back on the motor, and then we'll go ahead and start getting our turbo mounted, start looking at how we want to space the studs out, and then also our spacer right over there. So if anyone's curious, this is the tap that I went with, just an Irwin, and as you can see, 1/8 inch 27 MPT national pipe thread. Pretty cheap, got it at Ace Hardware, so we'll go ahead and use this, tap them, and call it good. All right, so we got this drilled and tapped right there. We got all 4 ports plugged. These are the 2 plugs that came with the manifold, and I think in the stud kit as well. So these are going to be permanent. I'm probably going to Loctite those so they don't come out, or I might put anti-seize to make sure that if they ever need to come out, then you know they're not seized up in the manifold. But that's where we're at right now. Go back and hang it on the studs. everything looks like. Sitting up right here. So we have it in the turned up position. We got basically everything just hand tight. These are 44 foot-pounds. So go ahead, we have a little bit of play in it right now. We're trying to get everything settled, and then we'll go ahead and start tightening these up. We'll get probably these top two tightened so we get it sucked up to the face of the head. And then we'll go ahead and go, and there's a torque sequence, and you kind of start in the middle and work your way out in a circular motion. So everything's thrown back together. You can see right here, good clean install. We just have those two plugs for now, and then we have the two underneath there. So that all looks good. Next thing we're gonna do is the kit came with a couple variety of stud links. So if you take a look right here, we got 4 long ones and I believe 4 short ones. I think there's another one floating around here on the table somewhere, maybe under the drill. But yeah, right here beside the torque wrench. So we got 4 short and 4 long. With this turbo, where it mounts, let me turn it over. So you can kind of see, you got a little bit of different clearance, just based on, I guess, the way it's clocked and everything. And then right here, this will have to be a short one because nothing moves right here. This is fixed, but everywhere else, just depending on how you clock everything, depends on your clearance on your bolt holes. So we're gonna go ahead, and I kind of already looked at it. It actually works better diagonal. If you go ahead and do a long one, and then a short one, and a short one. All right, so we're gonna get those threaded in there. You can just hand tighten them, and then I usually double nut them, and then tighten the top nut and get it snug. And then we will set our spacers on the flange, and then we'll get the turbo thrown on there, and go from there, let y'all look at it, and see how it turns out. It should sit somewhere pretty high up here, because here's the top of the valve cover, right? And then it's gonna be clocked up in this position, and then it has that elbow for your intercooler boot coming back towards you. But it should be somewhere up in here. It's gonna be a fancy little unit. I went with the high mount kit because I have yet to see a high mount kit on a second gen as a single turbo, as I mentioned before. So we're gonna go ahead and get that knocked out, and we'll go from there. All right, so there she is mounted on the manifold. Looks really good. Here's a further view. Let me zoom out real quick, make sure that, oh, you can't zoom out while the video is going. So here's what it looks like. I'll go ahead and take the blanket off so we can get a good little overview. But yeah, everything's starting to look real nice. You can see how high it sits up there. There's the top of the valve cover versus the top of the turbo. We got just enough clearance down in there, if you can see, right through there. So it's about 1/4 of an inch, maybe just a little bit less, but it is just enough clearance. You can spin this freely, and it's not getting close to hitting. So we look good on that front. And then back here, I don't have anything tightened down yet, but we do have it sitting on the studs, and then we do have the spacing, or the spacer flanges right there. So everything else looks really good. Here's the turbine wheel. All right, so now since the turbo's on the truck, I'm gonna go over why I chose that size just to start out for the project, and then also what turbo I went with, brand and everything. So this is a 63 68 14 size turbo. It's good for around 600 horsepower depending on other mods, but as you've seen in other videos, we have the correct size injectors to match that turbo, and then we have correct size VP44, just a standard output, you know, to fuel up to about 650 horsepower. So this one maxes out about 600 horsepower, but moving forward, if I ever go to compound the truck, this is going to be a perfect charger for, let's say, like an S473 sitting out here. And so that's the reason why I went with it. The plans are to compound the truck eventually, but just to get everything fired up, I did want to go with a single turbo with this look. I think it's pretty slick looking. Haven't seen another one out there like it. But the brand turbo I went with is GT Performance. So this is Greg Turner. Makes really good second gen turbos. Ones like this, S300 frame, things of that nature. So went with that unit, got it off One Bad VP44. This is basically where half the parts of the truck came from. So he recommended it, spoke to Greg himself. He also recommended this size. There's a few other turbo brands out there. Duncan Finley's another one. But as of right now, this is what we have. This is what we're going with. So here it is. Quick little sneak peek before everything kind of gets bolted up. And then from here, we'll have to figure out how we're gonna do our oil feed and oil drain. All right, so I ended up having enough just regular nuts and lock washers and flat washers. So we're gonna go ahead and use that on all 4 studs for the turbo. You can kind of see behind the truck now, running down the from number 6 cylinder to number 1. So it looks pretty good, but we'll get these installed real quick and tighten everything down, make sure that the flanges are sitting nice and the gaskets. And we'll go from there and see what it looks like. Alrighty, so we had to take the compressor cover off, but that does give us good access to tightening up this nut and this nut. So we got all of them tightened. Ended up going with nut, lock washer, washer, and then we have our turbine wheel right here, compressor wheel. So she's shiny, she looks good. We're gonna get the compressor cover thrown back on there, and then from there, move on to the oil feed and oil drain. And then I think the next thing we're gonna do is see how we can knock out this downpipe and start routing the exhaust. We do have the exhaust, it's right here. We got ourselves a good nice 4-inch by 18-inch by 8-inch exhaust tip, and there's everything else, but that will be a separate video. But we'll go ahead and knock everything out that we have and go from there. All right, so now we got everything tightened up. We got the compressor cover back on, and then here's what it looks like. All tightened up, all snug, good clean fit. And we're gonna move on to getting our oil feed and oil drain. If you take a look over here at the table, we got them right here. Here's our oil feed. Here's our oil drain. Did I just chip that? No. So they look good. And then for S300 frame, it goes, the oil drain actually goes to your front freeze plug that kind of is located right above your oil pan. Right here, here's the plug. So actually I need to get a new freeze plug because I pulled that one out so I can route the oil drain, and then we need to put a freeze plug in there. But for now, the little plastic cap will work. But we'll go ahead, remove this little plastic threaded cap on top of the oil filter housing, and that will run up and over the compressor. And then we'll have one that we're gonna have to kind of adjust the turbo a little bit so we can clear and everything. But I have everything loose right now, so we can adjust it where it needs to be at, and then we'll kind of see where we're at once we get to mounting everything. All right, so we got the oil feed line in, pretty easy. It's just finger tight right now, but we'll get it tightened up for, you know, officially once we get, you know, ready for first fire and everything like that. But you can kind of see the way it's routed. Went this way, so we're not getting close to the manifold because that's going to be hot. And then it's going to sit here, depending on where we're at. This may touch. Not really sure yet. I'm pretty sure that this has to come out at a straight 90 degree out this way. And then we have that elbow that's going to run through here. But depending on the piping and everything, we might have to go, I don't know. It just really depends on the intercooler piping where we're going to leave that. But for now, it looks pretty good right there. So we'll go ahead and get into the oil drain, which I'm going to have to look at and see how we need to rotate everything and adjust it. All right, so I just took off the little bracket that mounts to the bottom of the turbo and mounted that by itself. Went and had to go get some hardware. They're just your standard 3/8 by 16 thread pitch. So now we know that that has a good seal, not gonna leak. And then wherever the best way for that hose to route from our drain port right there to the drain port on the turbo, that's the position we're gonna be. I don't wanna, you know, go completely sideways with it or anything like that. So I'm thinking about right there would be nice. It's not 100% straight up and down. It still has a little bit of clock to an angle. So like here's straight up and down, and it's just off to the side a little bit. But I think that's gonna be okay. I wanna play around with it, see where we land. All right, so now next thing we're gonna do is just go ahead and install our little 90-degree elbow that's coming off our compressor housing right here. So that'll go just like that. But you can see it's kind of running into where the oil drain is, but that's okay. All right, so we reached a good stopping point. We installed everything that we had today. Here's the truck right now. Looks really, really good. You can see we got the oil drain installed. I have everything hand tightened because more than likely things will need to be adjusted whenever we get the fenders on the truck and everything else. We are not running a battery, so we don't have to worry about that. So we have a little more room than normal inside the engine bay. But here is basically the overall setup. Looks really good with the high mount in the color scheme. It may be just a tad bit darker than the Delmonico, but as far as, you know, getting as close as we can, that's what powder coat we had from Prismatic. But yeah, there's a good little overview. So yeah, basically best of the best. We got Steed Speed for the manifold. We got Greg Turner turbo. So she looks good. But that'll wrap up this video. Next video is going to be doing the exhaust and then trying to route that and see exactly, you know, the fitment and what we need to do, some fabrication or not. So this will probably be the first video of 2024. Making good progress on the truck. A lot of big things happening. We're getting closer to setting the cab on, things of that nature. So we'll just keep on chugging along. We'll have the exhaust in the next video. So be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share this video where you talk diesel as always. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Foss out.